What is the meaning of life? The quick and meaty answer that you are looking for is, it is your rise to become a great being by means of knowledge, adventure, and the resulting wisdom. To digress, if what you really want to know is why we exist, it is because the universe is constantly mixing things in a very large number of places. As a result, all kinds of weird things emerge in all kinds of odd places, out of what we know as fundamental principles of physics and chemistry, to paraphrase Murray Gell-Mann. The conditions for life in this part of space emerged the way conditions for a perfect day emerge sometimes. It's purely by chance. To resume the big question, the long answer to the meaning of life is that there is no one single meaning, because that would be an insult to your uniqueness, to your personality, to the unique constellation of curiosities in your mind. This feels a little off topic, because I'm not answering the question directly. But you should know that the question, what is the meaning of life, just sounds like a fine question. It makes a number of presuppositions and assumptions that are a little iffy and raggedy. They are kind of silly, really. Even so, I respond with a sturdy answer to give you all that you are looking for. I know what you're asking about. We all ask the same question. Cult leaders dream about selling one single meaning to all people on earth. They could save a lot of money on all those seminar pamphlets. Why, all you'd need would be a printing press, right? Schools too sell a cookie-cutter meaning. Good grades means good job. And then somehow they get paid for peddling insipid crap that ensures a life of poverty and a midlife crisis when you finally air out all your regrets and buy an expensive car. To be clear, this is such a hot question that entire fake industries and imaginary religions rose around it. Be careful who you listen to. See what their advice does to others. Look at debt, including its hidden version, a little bit of coin from a lot of people, and often tax-free. Now, you will be glad to know that once you get over the fakers, the search for meaning of life is meaningful to you personally. It starts with a beautiful thought adventure that involves all the things that interest you. This thought adventure will create new and higher interests along the way. You may have but 5 curiosities at start, but then you will quickly develop 1,000 more as you learn about the little 5. Schools try to force a preset script on you. It is a betrayal, as you can't effectively learn what you are not interested in because you will never practice it. To know something means to frequently use it. If you are young, you should never forget that you can't learn what you don't care about, not really. This way, you will be able to see how they are forcing you to memorize so that they can make you perform on tests like an actor. When you are interested in something, your mind is already adapted for comprehending all the information about it and around it. You can't learn a thing if you are not curious about it. To really learn means to return to the thing throughout your entire life. Each time you come back to your curiosity, your mind is ready for more. It's a beautiful thing. Here, self-education emerges as a powerful antidote to ineffective education, to what schools are trying to do to you. When you build your own educational path forward, it will only revolve around the things that your mind is ready for. Moreover, your curiosities will lead to other related curiosities that you will be certain to return to, as they are part of you, part of your personality, your soul, the constellation of curiosities within. Knowledge is not about just learning something new, but expanding what's already in you, integrating new things to what you have already built in your mind. That's knowledge. Memorization that doesn't stick to anything. There's nothing to integrate random disconnected facts into. You will forget it. And because you are never interested in it in the first place, you will never practice it. You will never return to it. Things you don't care about are useless. It's a waste of many years of your life that could have been spent towards learning things that make you powerful and strong and creative and inventive. It is a great shame, a great betrayal. I think this captures rather well the knowledge part of your way towards understanding your meaning. To actually get at more knowledge and expand your horizon, to explore everything else out there. When you are ready, you will become ravenous for narrated books, without which you'd have to restart everything at zero. You do not want to reinvent calculus. With which you can inherit entire lifetimes of wisdom and thus rise to stand on the shoulders of giants, sometimes even continuing their work. Now onto adventure. You may be surprised that adventure, actual nature, walk, camping and backpacking adventure, must be combined with knowledge in order to begin reinventing and later synthesizing your own wisdom. But adventure is a critical component of clearing your mind. It is about pulling you away from existing indoctrination and showing you that you are just as capable as anyone, and then letting you get at the books that you are curious about. Indoctrination is not just about religion or bad culture or troubled families, but also the assumptions that you yourself are making. For example, a lot of people forget that memorization is not education and associate their level of intelligence with the grades that they are getting. Yikes! This type of forgetfulness is actually induced by threats of being held back, laughed at or being ridiculed, and not having a diploma to get a job. So it's like you fuzz the parts away in order to focus on doing what you need to do to get to the job part. But closing your eyes in this situation is a terrible thing, because education really matters. It changes the entire life ahead of you. But look at what's happening here. How awful. The fraudulent educational institutions that merely sell an impression of education and force you into temporary memorization without any useful comprehension are threatening you with you not being able to get a job, all the while ensuring that you will not rise out of poverty by cursing you with ineffective education. That's a pretty sick trick, if you ask me. Months of adventure will remove those threats. They will help you see right through them. They will help you see that ineffective education is largely meaningless education, and it is certainly trash education when compared to the real thing. All of this is really just about as imaginary as the thousands of gods that all the fraudsters have invented for some gain, even if just to stay in business. If you continue stressing out about grades, and then blindly cramming for tests and performing, then get a job and a much more complex life, then you will never really read a book. It won't happen. A book will never call to you, or if one does, it will be something that's not relevant to wisdom. In stress, under the constant threat, our minds are simply incapable of extracting and adopting wisdom from books. We get too busy, too fuzzy, too noisy in our minds, and life is too chaotic. That chaos comes from lack of wisdom. This is where the midlife crisis comes in, where people just can't handle all that. And due to their lack of wisdom, they end up running in circles doing childish things. Adventure will snap you out of the stressful routines and make your mind compatible with inheriting wisdom from books, which will then prevent things that cause consequences that later end up crushing you. If you have ever taken a long vacation, you actually might have noticed a small nagging urge to get a book, to get some new knowledge into you. This is the urge that adventure greatly multiplies. We are not, in fact, being that poetic when we call someone closed-minded. We are describing a person who is too stressed out, too freaked out to grow up, to expand their mind. It is of some note that religions often create fear that adds to the stress of a person, and almost always cut them off from reading more than one book, and thus induce uncertainty that prevents learning for real. And you should be just as careful with schools, because if they can get away with it, they will tolerate drug use, because that will increase brainless performance on tests, and thus make the school look better. I don't have to say it, but just in case it is unclear, there's nothing that you can gain by messing with your brain. Just like there's nothing you can gain by randomly sticking wires and electronics components into your gaming console. You wouldn't do that to your little game box. Why in the world would you want to do that to your brain? Don't let fakers stress you out. Don't buy into broken cultures that are not going anywhere. Rise as a wise being. This really underlines why adventure is a critical component of your mental health. and thus an important part of building the meaning of your life. As to wisdom, you are not supposed to start from zero, because you will just walk a road that has been walked countless times before, and you're not going to get very far. You need thousands of narrated books to raise you to the plateau where all the world's great beings retired and continued their work in your own way. I am not really able to explain wisdom to you in a way that is somehow better than actually listening to thousands of wise, well-narrated books. But let me clarify something. A wisdom is not a quote such as, "I think, therefore I am," which means, since I can control my own thoughts, I am real. But rather, you getting to know the author, in this case Descartes, and where he lived, and what the world was like, and above all, what his ways of thinking were. Walt Whitman beautifully describes this in his poem Cosmos, with a K, by saying, and I paraphrase, "Understanding things by subtle analogies to other things." So when you learn about Aristotle, Nietzsche, and Ayn Rand, for example, your inheritance of their ways of thinking will enable you to think by subtle analogy to some of their creations. And when you start combining and drawing out this inherited wisdom to create layers of your own observations, it can be said that you are synthesizing new wisdom, new ways of navigating complexity of our universe. But these new pathways must come from warriors that have either fought to repair their mistakes or beings who lived their lives well, who loved life every day. It is better to seek non-fiction than made-up stories, where the content of characters can be completely imaginary, unintegrated, and incoherent, or full of contradictions. It is really important to search for wisdom in books about real people. The authors of great books always have a clear and contradiction-free message with an aim to help you understand, with an aim to share what is really meaningful to them. Finally, as you walk through life, expanding your curiosities, gaining more awareness, knowledge, and wisdom, you will not aim to travel a path less traveled by, but in your authenticity, your path will be just yours, as unique as you are, as your personality has become, as the constellation of the curiosities in your heart. Here, you see, the meaning of your life becomes as unique as you, of course. And what is more, after ages pass, your works will serve as a reminder of who you once were. Each time your works are examined far in the future at some length, a kind of an immortal soul or spirit is awakened, along with an invitation to a friendship, granting you a very real kind of immortality, granting humanity a priceless treasure, and many a student new shoulders to stand on.